If you enjoyed this episode, you're over 40, and you're looking for a free kettlebell workout to help you get started, check the first link in the description. It works on YouTube as well as on Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another episode of the Powerful Kettle Nights podcast, and I have with me Philip Wojtynski. He is a fellow IKFF friend who got certified with Steve Carter the same way how I got certified, and actually that's how I found out about Phil. And as far as I know, and you can correct me afterwards, Phil, as far as I know, he was in charge of IKFF China, and he was rocking with kettlebells back when I got started, so I checked this stuff out. I was like, man, I really love what this guy's doing. And I also see the let's say like the style, Steve Carter's style I saw in him that I've also adopted as well, which I would consider, if I consider Steve Carter the original hybrid, I would say that Phil is also a hybrid who uses the kettlebell from all different angles, like we talked before we got started with the podcast. Yeah, so I'm really happy to have you on the podcast. So Phil, welcome.
Cheers, man. Thank you. I'm really glad we are doing it. This is my first podcast.
Oh, also, there's always a first time. Great.
Yeah.
Yes. So Phil, as we always do it with all the guests that we have on our podcast, give us your background. How did you get started with kettlebells? Maybe take us even a little bit further. What was the first kind of fitness thing that got you into kettlebells? Just your background in general. Your turn.
So I think if I'm gonna like reach back into my memory, first thing ever that was even remotely fitness related was my dad had a book, and it was Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I don't know if you ever came across it.
Yeah, I heard about it, but I didn't come across it. Awesome.
So my dad had the book, and first was Arnold doing his crazy stuff with heavy weights, but at the end of the book was like the section for young aspiring bodybuilders. And I was probably like, I don't know, I think maybe 10, 11 years old, but I was already kind of impressed by the physique, and Arnold was like this. That was the golden era of Arnold, yeah. Every half a year there was a new blockbuster, and Arnold was the main guy.
Yeah, the golden era of action movies, most definitely, yeah.
So this is when I started, the push-ups, some squats at home, stuff like that. And soon after, I got into cycling because my dad was a cyclist. So I actually liked mountain biking more than traditional road cycling. And I won a race when I was, I think it was 6th grade. I won a race, just, went to a race. Hey, there was a race. Go take part in this race.
Yes.
And I won it. Just because for me, after school, everything was just riding the bike. So I was already very well conditioned, and I was good on the technical aspect. So I won. And I finish. This guy is riding at me, which was later my coach. And I did. I was racing like professionally, let's say, like youth professionally for about 5, maybe 6 years.
Wow. So mountain biking on a professional level?
I was doing road cycling.
Road cycling. Road cycling. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But my real love was off-road. Cross-country, downhill, stuff like that.
Yes. So you were road cycling, like Tour de France style, on a professional level,
like like full on latex, almost like the latex suit, tires this thick, and
yes,
and my chance to like break up the sport was when I broke my leg playing basketball, and I was like, oh my god, finally, because I loved it, but I hated it because. You're from Switzerland. I'm not sure about the weather in Switzerland, but in Poland, the weather is not the weather for cycling,
mm-hmm.
because you have maybe 4 beautiful months out of a year, and then you
Same
have
here. Same here.
8 months where it's just like either cold or
Yes.
windy or raining, or now snows a little bit less, but you have snow. So cycling is not ideal sport. So when I saw a chance that I could kind of get out, I got out. And a year later, I think it was a year later, I left Poland and I went to China um, to visit my brother, who opened the branch of my dad's company there. And I just went there for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks became 15 years.
15 years you've spent in China.
15 years in China. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, I found out about kettlebells. I found first through CrossFit, because I got really into fitness
Hmm.
in, I think it was 2009. So I was 21 years old, and that was I think like my final step into the door of the gym, because I would work out before that, but it's 2 weeks over there, 2 months here, but it was never consistent. It was never
Mm,
for
hmm.
let's say more than 9 months out of a year.
Mm, hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so then 2009, and it's actually a hilarious story, because um, in United States they had medicine to stop smoking. It was called Champix.
So in China
And
now, right?
Champix, no, first they had it in America.
Ah, in the US. Okay.
Yeah, but then I think the FDA found that there is so many side effects, bad side effects of it, that they banned it from United States.
Mm.
And it was really cheap in China. So my friends, we used to live, this is university years, so we are living like 5 dudes in one
Yeah,
apartment,
of course.
and three of my mates are like, "Hey man, we're gonna buy this medicine. We quit smoking." And I'm like, "You guys are PUSEC SSIS. I don't need that shit. I'm just gonna stop." Because we would be smoking, drinking, and I stopped smoking, and those guys were eating the medicine, and we all went and got gym memberships.
Ha. So like let's go all in, right? Quit
Let's
smoking, get
go.
started. Yep.
We still drinking, we still partying, but no smoking, and let's go try get jacked.
Yes.
So we got the gym, and first rookie results.
Like
People are
it.
like, "Oh my god, you guys are starting to look crazy and awesome." And, if you are consistent for the first 3-4 months, you really see results quickly,
Exactly, exactly.
because it's from 0 to 50%
Exactly.
is like
Newbie
that. It's like,
the newbie games, yeah.
yeah, man.
Exactly.
So then I got to the point where I was like, "Oh, okay, you know, I'm going to gym, but nothing is really happening anymore." So I started checking researching the diet, and I quickly noticed that everybody says one thing: you want to grow, you gotta eat.
Mm, yeah. I read that
So,
too. Yeah, yeah. Most.
when you study, when you in college, what do you eat? You eat breakfast and you eat dinner. That's it. Daytime, a bunch of coffee, you study, and then weekends, forget about it. Weekends, you wake up at 4 p.m. hangover as hell. You have a little bit of food, you go out drinking.
Exactly.
So I was like, all right, I gotta get those extra meals. And I started, okay, lunch and this, and then this is the that's the time when I don't know if you know Rich Piana.
Yeah, of course. Of
Okay,
course.
this is the time when every
Yeah. The
if you watched anything on YouTube related to fitness and bodybuilding,
yeah, Rich
Rich
was
Piana was on your feed all the
everywhere.
time.
It was the 8 hour arm workout, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's one of his
Get
things.
your 16 shakes, and yeah.
Yeah, get
Um,
big or die trying, stuff like this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Ronnie Coleman had on BSN website. Ronnie Coleman had the schedule of his food, and I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god, the guy wakes up at midnight to have a shake." I
And
was like, "I
hey,
wanna."
hey, do you believe they really did this, right? To wake up. Sometimes it's like I mean, I remember these days as well. And I had a similar path like you. I got into stuff, researched stuff, then I saw you got to eat big to get big, like that stuff.
Yeah.
And then these guys were one of the bodybuilders, and he actually died a couple of years ago. Andreas Frey was his name. He was a German bodybuilder. And I
Uh-huh.
think he was Mr. Universe. And I got the first info from him, and he had the Andreas Super Shake in the morning, right, where you drink like 1,000 calories. And he said
Yeah.
the goal or the secret is liquid calories, and that's how I really got, I really puffed up. But when you read these articles, like from the bodybuilders and all these guys, like Ronnie Coleman, do you think based on what you know now, do you think it was kind of a marketing gig, or did they really wake up to get these meals or to get the calories in?
I think possibly they could, because if you think about for me, um, that's what I tell to a lot of my clients. I'm like, hey, sometimes it's force feeding. You know, I tell them, I'm like, hey man, you gotta, because sometimes I'm like, hey man, I'm eating and I don't grow. I'm like, dude, you gotta be foie gras. You gotta, force feed. It's not, oh, I have an appetite or I don't have an appetite. I'm like, the alarm clock goes off, you shuffle it in. And of course, this is also when my knowledge about fitness was limited to the belief that, you know, when people were telling me, man, but bodybuilders take steroids, I was like, no, 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 man, it's hard work and diet. Yeah, and a guy looks like 140 kilos, veins popping on the stomach,
Yeah.
which
And on the back.
later
Yes, yes. Of
later
course.
you find out,
Yeah.
you meet athletes that are super serious, and you notice that okay, there is a certain point where you know it just PEDs, yeah.
Mm.
So I think those guys would actually, I did that. I did the kind of Ronnie Coleman thing where I would have a shake at 12 o'clock, at 12 midnight. I would have a shake at 6 a.m. I would have breakfast at 7. I would eat at 10, and then I would eat at 1. And I had 6 meals a day
Yeah, every
where I
three
was
hours.
growing, man. I was like a puffer fish.
Yeah,
And I
me
got
too.
to
Me
from
too.
from 72 kilograms, I got to 95 kilograms.
Wow. Yeah.
For
What's your height?
American
What's your
viewers,
height, Phil?
that's gonna be 145 pounds
Uh huh.
to about 215. My height is 183 centimeters.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
about 6 foot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So to grow, 50, 55 pounds, or 20 plus kilograms in a year, that's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
I came back home because I also had a point of reference. I had actually 2 points of reference. One was I came, and my father once saw me when I was sitting in a car. I was renting a little Hyundai, and my stomach was here
Yes, I
because
can
I
imagine.
came back home, and I stopped training. Holiday, woo, lots of drinking. But then this is when you have a seasoned athlete and you have somebody that starts. Seasoned athletes, you train for a lot of years, you know exactly what's going to happen to you after what you eat, what you drink, how many times, for
Exactly.
how many days, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You get in tune with your
And
body. Yeah.
but I came, this is my first year of like serious training. I gained all of this weight, so I thought, okay, even if I'm not working out, I gotta eat to maintain.
Ah, yeah.
And
Every
oh
step.
boy, that fresh muscle can change into, if you keep fueling your body like that, that fresh muscle really quickly disappears or deflates, and you gain just fat.
Mm-hmm. It is what it
So
is,
I
man. Mm-hmm.
so I got close to like chubby quickly. And then I flew back home after 2 months in Poland. I flew back home and I sat on the sofa And that was my biggest point of reference. And I sat on my sofa, and the feeling of sitting on a sofa was completely different because I was like just a bag of meat, just like, oh,
The feeling of sitting on a sofa was different. Wow.
yeah, like the sofa felt different, and my
Oh.
body felt different on the and I was like, okay, this is it. Boom. And just like that, I went to 3 meals a day, shake after
Mm-hmm.
workout,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of like supplements to like the burners
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and those. I think I used like animal shred or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah. Me too. Me too. The
The
black
good
box with
old
the red stripes, right?
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
there was
yeah.
like a
Animal.
bunch of pills, and there was what, a
Yeah,
red pill that would like
I,
that
I
I,
remember
I
that.
remember after 4 p.m. I was like, okay, no more red pill for me because I want to go to sleep.
You can't go to sleep. I love this, man.
And
Yeah.
and I dropped down to 82 kilograms,
Mm-hmm.
and I was feeling very good because first of all I was like, wow, I used to weigh 72 kilos, now I'm 82,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so definitely I gained a lot of muscle because I was shredded, and that's when I found out that mass moves mass because my strength went
Oh, I love
just
this. I love
plummeted.
this. Mass moves mass.
I
That's
mean, like
simple.
Americans say, it's simple physics. What do Americans say about engines? No replacement for displacement. So you want big horsepower, you want torque, you gotta have the extra weight, and that's why you have weight classes, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Same.
It's no, of I 100% agree and understand where you're coming from. I just like the simplicity of the statement, like mass moves. I never heard it like this. It is something right, and we can jump a little bit into this later. But sometimes people think, or at least that's what you read online, especially online, is that people think that kettlebells, even though I mean we both love kettlebells, but that there is some kind of effect towards the kettlebell that it gives you super strength. And it gives you strength, most definitely, and maybe in a range of motion and in areas that you didn't have before, especially because of its offset of the weight and everything. I get it. But the ultimate, this like factor of being strong, or one of the important factors of being strong is you have to be big as well, right? The big guys move the big weights. Even though you also see right, skinnier guys are not that massive guys moving a lot of weight, but you definitely see it with the Chinese jacked weightlifters. Like these guys look Lu Xiaoyan and Lee Kang, or Lee Kang I think is
Yeah.
South Korean. I'm not sure, but these guys are fully packed muscle, right? So
I
there
mean, yeah,
is
you don't
right.
want to waste, especially if you have a weight limit. You don't want to waste a gram because every extra muscle fiber, especially when you get to like a really high, like really really professional level, everybody's technique is spotless.
Yes, yes, yes,
Everybody's mobility,
yes,
speed, technique, and then what it comes to strength.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and strength usually comes from, obviously, it's not. Kai Green said the best thing. He said, "What are you? You are a weightlifter or you are a bodybuilder?"
It's two different
Because
things. Yeah.
for bodybuilding, you want to be big. You don't want to lift too much. Yeah, you want to lift, but your goal is to be big. Where in strength training, you want to be the lightest that you can possibly be and the strongest at the same time. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
the curve is different.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
The curve is different, especially like for example now I used to compete in open category, and open category is 85 above 85 kilograms. And last time I went for a Polish championship in pentathlon, and I step on scale, I'm 86.6. Okay, no problem, because I felt good. I knew I'm in shape. So I got second place. First guy was, I think, 107 kilograms.
Yes.
Then it's me, 20 kilograms less, and a third guy, and everybody in top 10 started from 92 kilos.
There you go.
And I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
um, let me just, work on my diet, drop 1.5, or not even drop 1.5 kilograms, because I know if I just played with hydration before,
Yeah. Weight cutting. Yeah. Most
you know
stuff.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You just drop some
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
like this year, the World Championships that's gonna be in Hungary in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my plan is to go weigh in on Friday at 85, little dehydrated. Then we have 24 hours to hydrate, and competition is the next day. So
Yeah.
I want to be competing at about 86 and a half, 87 kilos, but my weigh in is going to be at
Yeah.
85.
Most def. Yeah. That's how weight cuts work. Yeah. Most def. So it's gonna be championships of a kettlebell sport, right?
It's IKMF, and it's going to be one day of pentathlon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be second day is going to be kettlebell marathons.
So can you break this down for us? The pentathlon is from Valery Fedorenko, right?
Yeah.
So can you break down the system, the
Um,
rules, and everything?
yeah. So in pentathlon, you have five lifts. You have the clean, then second lift is the clean and strict press.
Mm-hmm.
Third is the jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth lift is the half snatch,
Mm-hmm.
and fifth lift is the push press. Uh, each lift lasts 6 minutes, and you have 5 minutes break between each lift. Um, for those who want to dive deeper into it, I know you had Fedorenko himself on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he describes it best. And it's a great even the workout in itself,
Yeah, it is. Most
because you've
definitely.
got you've
Got
got the lower
everything.
body, you've got
Yeah.
the upper body,
Yeah.
you've got strength.
Yeah.
You can use different kettlebell weights for each lift. Um, you
And
have
and
you have endurance, you
and
have
you can
mobility,
switch arms anytime you want. Yeah.
and you can switch arms. And for me, the biggest, because I used to compete in long cycle.
Uh-huh.
I
Doubles.
used to compete in long cycle. I love long cycle. Why? Because it's the same thing. Is the For me, even now, although I'm not competing in long cycle anymore, but double kettlebell long cycle for me, it's if you are short on time,
One
or
of
you
the
just
best.
wanna hit everything. You wanna grow
Most def.
muscle. You wanna be explosive. If you want to become a beast with kettlebells, 2 arm long cycle all day. If you've got health for it, because for me, if you wanna get ready for sport, which is 10 minutes, and let's be honest, 10 minutes with two
I,
kettlebells here and overhead, it was just killing. It was just killing me. It was killing my spine, man.
yeah, it kills everybody, especially when you
It
do it
was
for the
just
first time. But here's the thing, Phil. You know what I've realized? I just got a couple of weeks ago. I got one of these. I call them Kettlebells
yeah.
from Arseny Zhernakov, right?
Uh-huh.
So I got it custom made from Arseny, which I've also had on the podcast. Also a very cool dude. Also one of these honored master of sport Russian giants
Uh-huh.
who, like Sergei Rutnev. It's just fascinating. These guys are just awesome to talk to. And while the kettlebell, I agreed, especially for people who are not used to the long cycle or just not used to these kettlebell sport movements, the snatch, the jerk, the long cycle. The pentathlon on one hand is way more accessible, which I like. But when
Yeah.
when you strip it down to these 3 powerful monster exercises from kettlebell sport, here's what I've realized. Once you understand the technique, and I wasn't the only one realizing this. I've also had Gregor Sobochan on the podcast. I think it was 2 weeks ago, the Slovenian champion, right? He's from Slovenia, I think, yes. And I think he's master of sport international class. And when we talked, he said, of course, you first have to learn the technique first. And in that process, it breaks you down, right? Because you have to understand, we both know, right? If you have a short torso and long arms, you're golden. You're golden for the jerk. It's easy to rack, you're solid. But if you have a long torso, short arms, your best position to rest would be at the top fixation, which is really tough to rest in, right?
Correct.
But here's what I want to say. After listening to what Gregor said, he said, once you have the technique down pat, then all you need is some solid endurance, some solid explosiveness, and you're good. And now, since I'm training with a belt, it is completely different. With the belt, and I don't want to downplay it, really don't want to, but double 24s are now way easier with the belt. And I call it raw lift. That's what you do too, right? Raw lift, no belt, right? Double long cycle with no belt is like, oh my God, right? It's just the elbow slide down, right?
For me, I'm okay. I'm okay everywhere. For me, it's also why I got into kettlebells, which is mobility. Because for me, my overhead mobility is, well, now it's okay, but I couldn't do that before. I couldn't do that before.
Me too.
Before I started working out with kettlebells.
Yeah, me too.
The entrance to kettlebells was, we coming back to the beginning of the conversation.
But before we go there, Phil, just my question: do you think the long cycle and the jerk for you, if you have a belt, is it easier? Is it? Because for me, it feels like that way. Because of the rack position, it's way easier.
In rack position, if you can reach the belt with your elbows,
yes,
definitely, belt is the way to go. Yeah. I went full circle because I used to compete in CrossFit a lot on some level. Let's say my level was top 10 in China.
Top 10 in China. What, in CrossFit?
I was top 10 in China in CrossFit. Yeah. And I took part in some good competitions. I actually took part in one competition where we had international crowd. It was Korea, Hong Kong, I think some guys from Singapore, and a lot of, like, all over Asia. And I took 5th.
Wow. And how big is CrossFit in China?
It's big, man. It's big. I opened my first gym in China in 2014. And I wasn't yet affiliated, but it was one of the first CrossFit gyms in China. And then it was like, just like that.
Boom, took off, right.
It was 2, and next year it was 200. Like, seriously.
It exploded.
Like that.
Man, yeah, CrossFit really exploded. Yeah.
So I went the full circle. I went from, the CrossFit guy with the ropes, with the, bandana, belt, knee sleeves, and this, and high socks, and 3 different pairs of shoes next to me during the workout. Went from that to 0, no shoes, almost
completely
like caveman, just underwear, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, that was too much. That's maybe not enough. And for what I'm doing, this is what I need. I know now that I definitely need the t-shirt with short sleeve, and some kind of a material that holds my elbow.
You're starting to slide. Yeah. It's
because if you
it's crazy. I know that.
Anybody that started doing kettlebells in summer in a sweaty room and wants to rack, and
forget it. It's impossible.
That's it.
That's it. But please run it back to your story. So it was because we were interjecting a little bit. So you went back to the 82, right?
My first connection to kettlebells was I couldn't squat. So, okay, how to open my hips. And I noticed that a lot of suggestions was goblet squat. Because the goblet squat, first of all, you have the counterweight in front of you. Yeah. It's not like a front squat with a barbell where you need a lot of mobility in your
Yeah.
forearm.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can cross, but that's not really comfortable, and you need a lot of equipment. And I kind of started building my own gym, let's say. So I got some kettlebells, okay, and I started doing the goblet squat. And I quickly realized that you can be very strong with a barbell, you can be very strong on machines, and the beauty of kettlebells is that they will humble you very quickly. And another beautiful thing about kettlebells is that independence between the left and right side.
Good major point.
So,
Yeah.
if you have any imbalances, um, I think kettlebells are the way to go. Then you have the versatility, which is you can do the lower body, you can do the upper body. You want to hit the full body um, with really high intensity, you go double. You want to work on more functional stuff, more kind of, like Steve calls it, you want to do the kettlebell martial arts, one kettlebell. So you really have everything. You can do the grinding movements like,
Yeah.
rowing, pressing. You can do
Yeah.
the floor press, squat,
Yeah.
deadlift.
Yeah.
You can do the flow movements. You can do the
Exactly.
swing, the clean, the snatch. Um, you want to juggle, you can juggle. You want to practice throwing, you practice throwing. Stability, balance, everything was in there. So I started getting more and more into into the art of kettlebells.
Mm.
Um,
I like how you described that. Yeah, the art of kettlebells. Yeah, love this.
and then yeah, because the dumbbell, even the name dumbbell,
Yeah.
you don't need, you don't. There is not much thinking in. I love dumbbells now. For everybody that's like, oh man, this guy doesn't like dumbbells. I love dumbbells. I go to the gym. I see dumbbells. I'm gonna do a dumbbell workout because sometimes you just want to take a break from kettlebells,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
I like diversity
Yeah.
because I noticed that whenever I'm on holiday and I'm forced to do something that I don't do in my gym, I get good results. You know,
Ah, I like that
like
because
I
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're giving your body
because
a stimulus the body's not used to. Yeah.
oh yeah, definitely I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that whenever I go to the gym and I'm kind of I have to think about, okay, let's see what can I do. Okay, there's cable machine. All right, there's a barbell, there's dumbbells. All right, I'm set. Now let's do 5 exercises,
Man,
for 5 rounds
it's
or something.
it's so funny how you're describing this, man. I had the same experience when I was on vacation because we were visiting friends and uh, the it's a very cool couple, and he owns I would say it's a hardcore gym. Really like loud music, old rusty weight plates, a lot of machines, and he screwed together some benches to make them more stable. And he's an old school bodybuilder. He's German, and he's like Rühl, like Markus Rühl, like the old school
Yeah,
bodybuilder type style. And when he's training at his gym, he's yelling. You hear him from right. You hear him miles away. I love it. And he also has I told him, I said, man, you really have a niche. You have the hardcore crowd because all the guys and the gals that walk in, they look like this, man. And I was like, yeah, that's your niche. I love it. And I remember, I was like, I had to do. I was the same. I was like, okay, the last time I worked with machines was like years ago. And now I was like, okay, let's do some dumbbells here. Let's do some work here. Then I go to the bench. Then I do some chest flies. Then I do some lat pulls. And man, I felt like a god. It was like, oh my, I miss that kind of pump feeling that machines give you to a certain extent.
yeah,
And same experience.
and especially when you're at the point where you've got the endurance and the strength from like functional training from kettlebells. You go onto those machines and you're like, oh man, I'm strong, and I can endure, and you endure, and you push some heavy weights, but the fatigue is so different.
Oh man, 100%,
Yeah, the
one hundred
fatigue is
percent.
different.
I
um
I remember this. Sorry if because you're saying it just resonates so much with me. When I was, I had the same experience in that regard, man, I have a lot of cardiovascular endurance now, way better than years before I started with kettlebells. I'm way more mobile, so I have more range of motion. I can move quicker through the machines. I don't have to rest that long, and that's totally fine. But it's 100% how you say it. The fatigue when you, for example, with the chest fly, when you reach that point of exhaustion that I'm not used to anymore because I work with different modalities, I'm like, you really have to push through to get through this squeeze, man.
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
That's the one of my favorite presentations of the kind of fatigue was JC Santana from IHP, the Institute of Human Performance, and he trains mainly UFC guys, and he said, man, these guys run, these guys do this, and let's say he's got guys that come and he says, okay, how's your endurance? And the guy's like, oh man, I can run 5-minute miles. I can do 5 miles in 25 minutes, which is pretty dang good. But the thing is the specificity of running and, let's say, combat sport, or running or biking and kettlebell sport. The specificity is so different, which let me that knowledge from IHP kind of allowed me to, for example, get ready for kettlebell sport for pentathlon, where I use 40 kilograms in the clean in my first lift. I got ready for the 40 kilo clean using nothing more than 32 kilos. I don't have more than 32 kilos in my gym. But the thing is that there is something called pre-fatigue. So let's say, somebody wants to get ready for a marathon. Option one, of course, you can get them ready for a marathon by only running.
With the volume, yeah.
But you come to me and you say, hey man, if I run 60 miles or 70 miles in a week, let's say my knees or my hips or my lower back is killing me. Okay, pre-fatigue is where we're going. Now, what I can do is, instead of make you run 10 miles, I get you tired first and I let you run 5 miles. By the end of the 5 miles, you feel like you ran 10 miles, but instead of doing, 30,000 steps, you did 15,000 steps. So for me, the very big thing for prep, and I'm still using it because, again, my mobility, although much better than at the beginning of my let's call it a sport career, it's much better. But still, I'm lacking in a lot of places. Yeah?
And do you think, you're saying you're lacking in a lot of places? With the experience that we have with some of our clients, I've realized we have worked with some of them for years, and certain, let's call them immobilities, never go away, which I think are a result of their body structure. So for me, for example, I had a similar experience like you. I couldn't do this, right, with the top fixation solid, and now no worries. And I can pull my arms really far back. I think this is also the way my shoulder is wired from a genetic potential. And also with the deep squat, I can sit down ATG, no worries, no problems.
Yeah. And I see your squats and your overhead extension.
Right,
and I'm
right.
just like, wow.
Yeah. Right? And so to a certain extent, I am assuming that you have to work with what you got, and you also have to accept a certain limitation at the end, right? Because this is your structure. It doesn't allow any more mobility. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think one of the best proofs for that is where you look at athletes and how they age. You know, again, I'm gonna go to JC Santana. You have people um, like Jean Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, legend.
Guy is now what, 70?
It's crazy.
Does splits,
Mm-hmm.
no problem,
Yeah.
all day long. He can be,
Mm-hmm.
watching a movie in a split.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got guys that, did taekwondo or something for years, and they reach the age of 50 or 60, and they need a hip replacement. And both guys trained from the same age and traded the same coach, let's say. But the thing is that some people just genetically have a different, angle of the femur. So can you get it to a split? Well, yes, with enough training and stuff like that, you can. Then you've got weightlifters. Some weightlifters, they can go for life. Some guys gonna reach the age of 40, 50, need to pull back a bit, change the way they train, and possibly get a surgery or something. Yeah.
It,
Um, you know,
that's really enlightening. Just a light bulb went up in my head. So if I'm reflecting what you're saying, and you can correct me, but I think that's how I understand it. You can have two guys or two gals. So let's say they start competing in karate or taekwondo, whatever you want to choose. So you have guy A having the perfect genetic requirements in the hips, in the shoulders to do the sport. He does it for his whole life. Then he ages 60, 70, no hip replacement, totally fine. Then we have guy B doing the same thing, karate, taekwondo, whatever you have you, competing for his whole life. But since he doesn't have the genetic predisposition for the sport, he probably hurts his hips along the way because they're not built for it. But like you said, well, you can do the splits, yeah, but maybe your hips are not made to do the splits forever, but you still do it. You put a lot of mileage on it, and then you need a hip replacement because you're genetically not predisposed to this type of sport. Do I understand this correctly?
exactly.
So that's what
Yeah,
you're saying. That it makes a lot of sense, man.
yeah. So, um, what I'm not, I've been training for a lot of years. I've been training for more than 10 years on a let's say high level, or at least with aspirations to be on a high level. And I've got some good results because in pentathlon, for example, I got the rank of the master of sport in
Oh,
international class.
awesome, man.
Um, and I noticed now that certain things I can do super heavy, certain stretches I can do, and I can really push. But there are certain things that are going to, um, you know, do more damage than good.
Mm.
And I
And
stay away.
and you feel
I
this,
touch
right?
it. I
You
touch it from time to time
uh-huh,
because
yeah.
just from like a kind of psychological point of view, I don't want to be. I want to know that I kind of got it,
Uh-huh. So
but I
like I
don't
can
need to.
do it. Yeah, yeah, I can do
Yeah,
it, but
but I don't need to have it on a level where
wow.
I used to be able to deadlift 200 kilos. Would I get to the level where I deadlift 200 kilos again? Probably not, because I don't think there is the benefit
Hmm.
is not
Hmm.
enough for the trade-off is not there.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I just had a conversation. I don't know who I was talking to, man. I was talking to so many great people on this podcast. But in one of the episodes, I said, it was the recent one with Sven Rieger, the team leader from Germany from Strong First, was a very cool guy. And we were talking about strength, and I said, from a genetic potential or from a genetic perspective, you mentioned the 200 kilogram deadlift. I maxed out at 170 kilograms for a couple of reps. And I think there was a barrier. I don't know if it was psychological or if I didn't have a better training program, but I maxed out at the 170. But I always felt that it's such a grind. I mean, of course, building strength and moving heavy weights is a grind, but it felt like so, to a certain extent, so uncomfortable that I realized, and that's what I told Sven, because Sven recently lifted the Dinnie stones in Scotland. They're 300 kilograms.
Uh-huh.
And then I told him, I said, what's your genetic, what do you think? Have you always been strong your whole life? Because that was the question. Because my understanding is, I don't want to downplay the work that it requires to build strength, because it is a long journey and it takes a lot of hard work. But there's definitely a genetic component to it. Just like the guy, and it's the same conversation, just like the guy who recently ran a marathon in 2 hours and 5 minutes. This is absolutely crazy. And while there is training behind it, with these extremes, extreme endurance or extreme strength, there is a genetic component attached to it. And I felt like I'm just not made to lift these heavy weights. I'm also not big of stature, right? So I'm 170 centimeters. What's that? 5'9" or 5'8" or something like this. And I'm 75 kilogram body weight. That's where I feel the most comfortable. And I'm just realizing it's like you mentioned in the beginning, when you train for so long, you fine tune, you know when your body communicates with you. And I totally understand that this is where it's set. This is set in stone. I cannot be super strong. I don't have super endurance, but let's make the best out of it. But just because of this genetic potential that I understand, that I don't have it. And it's totally fine, because you mentioned the 200 kilogram deadlift.
Yeah. So you just find, that's why I like CrossFit, because in CrossFit you have gymnastics and weightlifting. So when I had a guy who was doing muscle ups, 10 in a row, but he weighed, let's say, 70 something kilos, I knew, okay, once we get to the heavy cleans on the barbell, I will catch up. Yeah, so it was, okay. Oh, we get on the rowing machine, but then we're gonna do handstand push-ups, something like that. So it was very well balanced. But you don't have weight classes in CrossFit. And for me, I love CrossFit, but kettlebells was just like, like Steve told me. Steve said that he got kettlebells, he grabbed kettlebells, and he was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of easy for me. Yeah. The coordination, the way of the art behind it. Where some people are better with dumbbells, and some people, you tell them, hey, you gotta open your arm and slide the hand in, and they're like, okay, and they do it.
Boom, immediately, right? You got it, yeah. And other people struggle forever. Yeah.
An hour later, I got a client who's with me half a year, and I'm like, hey, man, don't forget to, open the palm.
Most definitely. Agree, man. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting back to Steve, actually, my first guy that I thought I'm going to attend his seminar. So when I started training with kettlebells in China, my friend told me, hey, man, there is an Asian fitness convention. It's called AFC, and it's every year in Bangkok. I think they just finished another edition. And he's like, hey, man, we should go there. There's a lot of certifications, and there is the kettlebell, the CrossFit guy. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I thought this was going to be Jeff Martone.
Ah, yeah, of course. The legend, Jeff. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, wow, awesome. And I just, he helped me sign up. And I was like, okay, sweet. We go to Thailand. I'm going to get, certified. And I got certified in a bunch of different things. I was like a TRX, battle ropes, 2 or 3 days of like 1 hour classes.
Oh, cool.
Which, by the way, anybody that's in Asia, if you can go to AFC, it's awesome. That's how I found out about Otter. That's how I found out about IHP and a bunch of other things.
Awesome.
And I go there, and I get to the course, yeah. And there is this guy, Steve. If you guys don't know Steve, Steve is this very well built short dude, and I'm like,
Yes.
fuck, where's Jeff Martel? And Steve's like, okay, welcome everybody. Today we are going to
Yeah, his typical
and
voice.
Steve done
Yeah.
this whole thing where it's like 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes of introduction, and then it's 30 minutes of warm up,
Yeah, yeah.
and you
I
just
remember. I
and
remember
you
too.
just pray to God that the warm up is over,
Oh, we
and then
got
you do a
yeah, yeah,
hundred
yeah.
squats
Yeah.
and
I remember it was the same here. It was like, hey, how long are we going to warm up? Like, I was like 10 minutes, five. No, it was 30 minutes. And at the end, he was like, well, normally, Gregory, you don't warm up for that long. But since we have a long day, we might as well have to do a long warm up. I was like, okay, when we're going to touch some kettlebells.
yeah. And then the
Love
legendary
this.
the legendary squats at the end where you do
Yeah.
10 slow. Okay, now we're gonna go faster.
And he's going really fast.
Breathe, breathe. Okay, now 20 more, faster, faster, faster. And then you just see people around tapping out, and you're like, no, I'm not tapping out.
Let's
And you
go.
finish. Yeah, I remember finishing the IKFF level 1, walking home, and my knees were inflated. Like I had an inflammation in my knees because it's a whole day of jerks
Yes.
and
Yes.
cleans and clean and jerk and
So
snatch and
crazy.
breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Zach, Zach Filer?
Zach Filer?
Zach Filer, he's like uh he's to Jeff Martone in CrossFit kettlebell training, kind of to what I was for Steve for IKFF in China.
Huh.
So because at some point, I guess those OGs get to the point where they just don't want to travel so much anymore.
Hmm.
So Jeff Martone was the CrossFit kettlebell guy,
Hmm.
and later he had or still has Zach
Check.
Filer, sorry, Zach Filer, who will travel around and present for the CrossFit kettlebell courses. And he's doing an awesome thing. He does Breathe Like a Boss. Every year when the CrossFit Open happens, yeah, CrossFit Open is I think it's 5 weeks. Every week you've got a workout to do that you can record, and this is how you qualify for
For
the
the
for the
CrossFit
CrossFit
Games. All
Games.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
So what he does is every time the workout comes out, he breaks down the workout and breaks down the breathing.
And
And the
what's his
breathing,
Zach and his last name? How do
Zach
you
Zach Zach spelled with CH, I think, and the last name is Filer, F
F I
I
L E
L
R?
E R. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. Yeah.
Let me check this out. Zach Filer.
And
Yep.
and
Got it.
he's got a hashtag breathe like a boss.
Hmm.
And it's awesome because it's kind of the same breathing as Steve introduces, which is just get in the rhythm of the exercise,
Exactly.
which for a lot of people, because a lot of people are coming to me like, hey man, but I'm doing it slower. Yes, but you can last longer. So in a spectrum of, let's say, you've got a workout that takes you normally 5 minutes, but during those 5 minutes, um, a minute and 40 seconds is you just putting the stuff down, shaking off, catching the breath. Now, um, you are going a little bit slower, but instead of putting the stuff down for so much, you can do 8 reps instead of 5.
Hmm.
You know, you
Hmm.
go a little bit short, you go a little bit, yeah. So,
Hmm.
and you don't fatigue so early. You don't lose your breath so quickly.
I think
Um,
that's also one of the core components of kettlebell training is that that's what I've learned from Steve as well is this continuous training. It's like weighted locomotion. Is you stay moving, you keep moving, you don't put the weights down. And that's I've never heard this before I got started with Steve. It was like, okay, you do one set of 10 swings and then you drop the weight, there you go. You do 5 sets of 5 presses and always rest in between, blah blah. The typical, let's say, like either strength stuff or bodybuilding stuff. And with Steve, and kind of like, I think that's where he got from Kettlebell Sport, this idea is this continuous movement with the weight, where the weight melts with your frame. So you attach the weight to your frame and then you keep moving. That's why you have to have a solid hand insertion. That's why you have to understand the rack position, the top fixation. And once you have all these moving pieces of the puzzle down pat, you can then train for an indefinite amount of time, right? And that's when breathing becomes so crucial. That's what I tell our clients as well. It's like, I can't hear you breathe. It's like you guys breathe like this. I'm like, hey, I always say throw the trash out. And I like what you say with the what Steve taught us, right? It's so great that you're saying this, because now I'm relearning this again. Is I call it hyperrhythmic breathing. So you breathe with the rhythm of the exercise.
Yeah.
So, and when people do the clean and press, I always yell through the room, 5 exhales. 5 exhales, right? Get it out and get in tune with the movement and with the motion of a movement of the training, which I think Steve kind of like borrowed it from the martial art to a certain extent. And that's why I really, it's that different vibe of kettlebell training, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixture of like sport breathing, martial.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is that mixture of, sport, the martial arts, the hard style, where in hard style, you kind of of course you're breathing, but there's a lot of tension, and it's, in sport, they actually don't want to waste energy, which is a lot of,
Exactly.
yeah. And then you have martial arts where you when you hear the guy sparring,
Yeah.
a lot of that like hard exhale,
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's that combination.
And then
right?
you just have to kind of adapt to what are you training for, which is it's kind of coming back to the specificity of the exercise. What am I training for?
Exactly. And that's why I always say, and we can talk a little bit about this because I'm interested in what your perspective is. So I believe, and that's what I've learned from Sean Mosen, the godfather of kettlebells in Canada. And he was also around the time when Steve Carter got into kettlebells. So these are some OGs, right, around the 2000s. And what I've learned from him, this stuck to me to this day, it's actually one of the most impactful podcasts that I've had, is forget styles. It's all about intent. Yeah. It's not about a style. It's all about what are you trying to accomplish? Are you picking up a 32 kilogram kettlebell, and do you want to strict press it overhead and then rack squat it back down, thrust it back up, and then maybe do a couple of hang deadlifts? Well, you might as well want to tense a little bit more, have some short, quick exhaling, because here you are moving into, let's call it strength territory, strength and muscle building territory. On the other hand, and that's what I've realized as well now with the belt, is are you picking up some light kettlebells for a 3-minute long cycle set or for a 5-minute snatch set? And it can even be a heavier kettlebell if you have a solid technique. Then your breathing changes, because then your goal is going into cardiovascular territory. So it's these two ideas that are these intents that define how you move. And
yeah, I totally agree.
Great. And what do you make out of the idea of hard style? Because, and let me preface this, I've had everybody on the podcast, I listen to everybody, but I don't agree with everybody, just like you don't, right? It's just, I think the more you move up the ladder, let's call it the kettlebell pyramid, the more you learn about it, the more you understand that everything is nuanced. Just with Gregor Sobochan, when I had this conversation about 2 hours, at the end I said, you know what, Gregor? The more I learn about this thing, the less I know. There's so much attached to it, and there's so many unknowns that we don't know. So how can I confine myself into only one set of thinking and ignore the complete rest? So, and it goes both sides. If the kettlebell sport guys, which I've had these reactions on my channel, some kettlebell sport guys are just mad with what Pavel did. And some hardstyle folks are just mad with how kettlebell sport works. And from my perspective, and I wonder what you think about hardstyle and this kettlebell sport and all that thing, is if we forget about the style and we only focus on intent, the discussion is obsolete. What do you think?
It's, it's the same as why do somebody, you have two people, they both go to the gym, and one says, oh, I sit a lot and my back hurts and I want to feel better. And another person says, hey, I'm an elite athlete and I just want to get better. Am I going to train them with the same goal in mind? No. One is for fitness, one is for the absolute best performance, which, if anybody did a sport on a certain level, knows that high performance and fitness are two totally different things.
Exactly.
I don't train. My intensity and my style of training is completely different. And if anybody ever scrolled through my Instagram, will notice that my kind of training, if I just train for myself and I just want to look good and feel good, it's completely different from the training that I do if I know I'm going to compete in 2 months or something. It changes.
Which makes total sense. Yeah, makes total sense.
Well, it makes sense because one is here I want to perform best, and another one is kind of like a recovery and overall fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is why you have athletes that, for example, Denis Vasiliev, he shows his functional training workouts where he does the tire flips, he does the ropes, squats, push-ups, dips, stuff like that, pull-ups. And what is it for? It's for better function that the sport, which would be, the cleans, the jerks,
yes,
recs and stuff, doesn't provide.
Yes.
Yeah. If you would focus solely on one thing, then you are prone to injury because you just, don't introduce those different patterns, movement patterns, ranges of motion to your joints and muscles. But going back to the training style, hard style, sport style, again, what do I want to do? Am I going to do 100 reps with 20 kilos, or am I going to do 10 reps with 40?
Exactly.
If I do 40 reps, of course, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, I got to keep loose and I got to, because I'm going to get tired. I don't care if I'm going to get tired. I want to survive 10 reps without tearing my shoulder apart in a snatch,
Exactly.
So I'm gonna go as tense as possible.
Exactly.
And if I notice in my first set that okay, that was easy, then I'm not gonna be as tense on the first rep, but it's gonna be kind of my brain is already gonna know how it feels. So I like both styles. If you're gonna see me doing fast reps, I'm gonna look different than I look when I do slow reps.
Exactly.
Let's say, because sometimes, and this is another thing that Steve taught me, you probably heard it too. In kettlebell sport, we don't really think too much about reps. Of course, reps are the absolute factor that's gonna tell me if you are better than somebody else. But very important is time under tension. which is kind of like distance in running.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a runner and I tell him, okay, go run 5 kilometers, he's gonna start running and he's gonna choose a speed that he kind of knows he can maintain 5 kilometers. If I tell the same runner, hey man, today we're gonna do sprints, we're gonna do 10, we're gonna do 10 times 100 meters, and you have 4 minutes of rest between. This guy is gonna go all out for the
All
100
out.
meters because he
Yes.
knows that okay, I finish 100 meters, I can sit down, I can have some water, I can,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is gonna happen when he's gonna run 10 kilometers. He's gonna go even slower.
Mm-hmm.
So in kettlebells, if I choose a super heavy weight for 6 reps, 5 reps, 10 reps, uh, the main focus is on just finishing the task. And when I'm thinking I'm doing a, let's say, 4 minute rest, 4 minute set, and I have to do 20 reps per minute,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna I'm gonna behave different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
is there an absolute way of doing something? No. And I tell
That's
my
the key.
clients,
Yeah,
I
that's the
tell my
key.
clients that, hey, if you ever go to another gym, because I don't know, maybe you're gonna move, maybe you're not gonna like the way I train, or you just want to go to another gym
Period.
once a week,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to have monopoly of my clients, and everybody has their own style. I do something my way, and some people like it the other way, and I'm completely fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell them because they're like, "Hey, man, this guy told me to do it like that,"
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "Hey, if you do it like that and you're comfortable, do it like that. However, maybe this way is gonna be more comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanna hit that muscle, do it that way. If you
Mm-hmm.
wanna, you know, uh, make, if you wanna lift the most weight, this is gonna be
Mm-hmm.
the better approach. Power lifters are gonna do a bench press different than bodybuilders.
Exactly. I.
And if anybody, let's just finish. If anybody tells you this is the only way to do something, then turn around and find somebody else.
Hmm,
Because there is
there
this
just
saying,
isn't.
there is more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Exactly. And there just
So
isn't one way. It's and that's I think that's the reason why I was turned off by RKC Strong First ideas and why I gravitated towards Steve. That was, I think, because I've heard about Pavel, I've read his books. Not that I've read them now more thoroughly and went through his material, and I like his writing style. I like his ideas. I like what he brought to the table. I like the fact that he popularized kettlebells throughout the West. Yet, this absolute approach to certain, let's call it even kind of like a dogmatic approach, I simply do not like this because it's. I just had conversations with a lot of coaches. I mean, you work. What is your client base age wise?
probably above 35.
All right. Okay.
Most of my clients are just um, office jobs
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Right.
pain
Yeah.
here, pain there. I want to feel better.
Same here. Same here. So it's all
Yeah.
about they want the results, right? I wanna lose that belly fat. I want to look better. I need more energy. All these beautiful benefits that training can provide you with, right? So that's the
Yeah.
reason why they come to us.
Yeah.
So our average age is 48 in our
Uh-huh.
gym. So here I am training people who've never heard of kettlebells or who never moved weights before. So if you work with this type of clientele, I mean, you've mentioned this before, right? You have some people, and we all have them, and all coaches can relate. You have some people, you show them once, and they like, boom. And you're like, wow, you instantly got it. Just, you require some reps to fine tune it, but you understand the hand insertion like this.
Yeah.
And then you have others that struggle forever, right? To a certain degree. And so with a couple of coaches that I've had on the podcast, I said I rarely or almost never include the Turkish get up into our client sessions. Because for most of the time, our client sessions are 45 minutes. Like I said, like I have the same folks that you have, people who want to just improve their fitness, overall fitness. So if I have 45 minutes of their time, I need to make sure they get the most return on their investment. I cannot spend 20 minutes talking about an exercise or getting into skill practice unless I'm having a kettlebell seminar. That's something different. But for most of the time, it's all about giving them some skill practice, especially if we look at a new exercise, and then let's just move because they need movement, right? They need training. And because of this, the Turkish get up just isn't that feasible for a class or for one-on-one. I rarely teach it. And a lot of coaches said, well, same here, right? I rarely use it. Yet you have this certain group of people that believes that the Turkish get up is this super skill exercise. And I like it. It's a cool exercise, right? If you have very heavy weight overhead, it's like it's a feeling of accomplishment. It's an awesome way. It's cool and that. Especially if I'm very mobile, so I have no issue with the get up. But I always say rather some squats, some swings, some presses, some walks, and we're better off. At least it's my perspective. But still, it's folks that think, no, the Turkish get up has this super set of skill transfer into everything, which I say, listen, man, it's just not true. If you look at even the sports literature, if we can say there's one exercise that is included in almost any sport, it is the squat in almost any variation. And that's what we can, exactly. That's what we can say, right? We can talk to thousands of strength coaches in one session, and I would say that 80% would agree the squat is one of the best exercises, period, for any type of sport, for normal people, for everything. The Turkish get up is not even on that list, in my perspective. Not on 10, not 11. It's a circus exercise that was brought into the RKC curriculum, and now people think it has this superpowers to it. What do you think about this? About the get up?
I ditched the get up long time ago, man.
Huh?
I just, I just got rid of it because first of all, let's be honest, if you are a personal trainer, there's a certain amount of comfort that your class should have. And the kneeling, I rather do, just like you said, some squats, some swings, some presses. If I want to have somebody train their overhead stability, okay, grab a kettlebell. Let's do overhead hold for a minute. Did I do heavy Turkish get-ups? Hell yeah, I did Turkish get-ups at high level because I didn't know better. If somebody comes to me and they go, hey man, I want to do heavy Turkish get-ups, I'm not gonna say no, we're never gonna do Turkish get-ups. No, I'm gonna teach you so that you don't hurt yourself, and we're gonna do some heavy Turkish get-ups. I have no problem with that. Do I sometimes show it to my clients? Yeah, occasionally. If I just wanna if I have a day where I know, if I have a client, first of all, if I have a client that understands and I know it's gonna be a flowing session, even though I'm teaching a totally new exercise, then yeah, if I have somebody with a good insertion, good overhead position, I will go maybe. But it's I shouldn't say it as a professional coach, but it's random. It's sometimes there's like boop, let's do Turkish get-ups, and it's maybe
just to mix things up, right? And maybe give them something like, ooh, hey, let's try something different. But it's definitely not.
Yeah.
And I hear you. I hear you. And then I think that comes from experience. It's not a staple of the curriculum. No. Of a trainer who works with kettlebells if you have normal people in the gym. And I think that's what so many instructors don't understand. It's at these certifications, RKC, Strong First, IKFF, whatever have you, even if you and I give certifications, what kind of crowd do we attract? Do we attract people who never lifted weights before? No. We attract trainers, fitness professionals, folks who have already developed a solid kinesthetic sense. And now you maybe sit in this echo chamber of 45 people in one room where everybody is solid, built, strong, fit, has a lot of endurance or whatever have you. And now we all do the get up, and now you send them away thinking that they can teach it to normal people who never lifted weights? Of course you can. But the risk to reward and the effort to reward ratio is just totally skewed. And that's from my instinct. I didn't teach the get up. Like you said, some people just have so much issues with their knees. They cannot kneel down. Okay, one thing. Then the other thing is they say, yeah, but we use it to get up. Well, how do most people get up? They roll over. That's how most people get up. You roll over on your hands and boom, you get up, right? Look at the UFC fights. Or fighting in general, right? You roll to the side and go up as quick as you can.
Yeah.
But and
that's
and
why.
yeah, keep going.
That's why I liked when Steve was showing the get up, because we used to do those seminars like kind of introduction seminars.
Yeah.
In some places in China.
Yeah.
And on a few occasions, Steve would be with me, and somebody would be like, "Hey, can you show us a get up?" And Steve's get up, what I liked about it was there was this extra functional step in it, which was, hey, once you are once you pick up your hip, don't stay there. It's a get up. You want to get up as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Get up the hip, get that knee underneath you.
Yeah.
Because
right? And then you squat up, right? From the bottom squat position, you stand up.
You can go into a squat or you can go into a lunge. Yeah, it depends if you're doing but don't stay in that triangle position when you have both legs in front of you and you on one hand. Because what's the function in this position?
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
It's a get up. In a fight, if you're gonna get into a plank on one arm
and you wait,
what's that gonna give you? This is gonna give you nothing.
Yeah.
If you want to lift something from that position, again, you're just wasting energy. So you should be getting from position to position quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And man, just on the sidelines, that Dennis of get up. And where he goes wrong side. Now, Denisov is
a legend. You respect him.
Dude is a God mode in the
he's
sport.
God mode.
I mean, when I got into kettlebells first, I would be just, hey man, look at this guy doing double 40 reps, long cycle.
It was with that one video with Valery.
Yeah.
And they count in Russian, and he does like 60, 70 reps, something. Yeah. With the white bells.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
And it sounds like he's gonna breathe his soul out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And the dude is a beast. I mean, till this day, whenever I lack motivation to do my pentathlon training, I watch the Denisov pentathlon, where he's just using. There is no kettlebell less than 36 kilos.
Dude is a monster, man.
It's a 48 clean, 36 clean and strict press.
Yeah.
It's a 40 kilo jerk. It's a 36 half snatch, if not 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's again 40 kilo push press. I mean, dude is crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And now with what's his name? The new absolute record. Ivanov.
Markov.
Ivan Markov.
Ivan Markov. The jerk. This guy is just next.
But when I have
I mean, Johnny Benitez. Look at Johnny Benitez.
I was actually before we started a podcast. I was kind of going through the names, of
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. Of these guys.
of the
Yes.
big guys, because I was like, oh, this guy's definitely gonna come up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he'd say, yeah. I mean, dude weighs as much as the kettlebells he's lifting for 10 minutes.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
it's
And
like Johnny holding Johnny, just going clean and jerking for
it's
10 minutes.
massive. And
And
but
the
here's what
and
you
the legendary, sorry, just the legendary Benitza snatches when he does like split snatches at the end.
splits. What where he goes into a snatch
When
jerk,
it,
something
when
like this. Yeah.
at the end,
Anything counts. Yeah.
yeah. So
You're
we,
dying.
as
Yeah.
long as you don't touch the ground and you lock
Yeah.
out, you're
Yeah.
fine.
So
So he
die.
does split snatches, yeah, where
Yeah.
he's almost knee to the floor. No
Oh
man,
my
he's
God.
a
Yeah.
total beast.
But we cannot forget about Khvostov. I have to repeat. I had him on a podcast, but he had some Zoom problems, so we had to postpone it. So Alexander Khvostov.
Oh yeah,
And the way this guy snatches a 56, I think it's a the 32 looks like a 16 when I do it. Then he goes up
yeah,
to 36, 40, 42, and finally, with the 52, he
yeah.
struggles a little bit with the snatch. You finally
You
see
know,
his face is changing a little bit. He has to really use a lot more tension to bring the weights up. But before this, it's like, and even his jerks, how Khvostov, his jerks, it's like, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. These guys are just absolute beasts. And about Denisov, it's funny that you're mentioning him because I just did a couple of days ago, I did a video because he commented on my channel a couple of times. And then I've reacted to what he commented. And then he said something about Pavel, which I now understand seems to have been taken from a forum that he's on or his page where this guy really tears into Pavel. And I thought I had a friend of mine, she translated into Russian what he said, into German or English what he said in Russian. And it sounded really, really bad. So I did a video on it. It's funny. It's funny. And I want to have Ivan on a podcast as well and talk to him. But here's the thing, man. It's just specificity again. Yes, the Turkish get up, like we said, it's not the super skill exercise. But if you don't know how it
yeah.
works, of course, it's a
Just
bad
don't,
exercise. Totally, right?
I don't teach people how to. I mean, I've done actually in China. I had a chance of translating for Andrea Duquesne.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Duquesne is she's John Duquesne's wife. You know John Duquesne, the Dragon
Of
Door.
course. Yeah, I had him
Okay.
on a podcast as well, John. Yeah.
After Pavel started Strong First, Andrea was the one that would be traveling around the world teaching RKC. And she came to China, and I think we did Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu. I think we did three um, different full day workshops, and I was translating for her. And the thing is, I think, and of course, this is not gonna be for everybody. Uh, for me, any sport is easy to be. Uh, I can go play basketball, I can go play football, although I haven't trained football. You give me a golf club, I can probably get it in 10 minutes, and I'm going to be better than somebody that's not very coordinated after a few
Mm-hmm.
months.
Yeah, most definitely.
Um, if you train sport, the transition into hard style is going to be much easier for you than if you train hard style and you transition into sport.
Ah, I get where you're
And
coming
I
from.
noticed it with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys. Um, and I did. Me and Andrea was traveling around China, and I had
Mm-hmm.
a opportunity to go with her. And there is a lot of good, but I think everybody should have a chance to try both
Exactly.
and choose what works. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when people are like, "Hey, man, what's better?" I'm like, "Try both. Which one makes you feel better?"
Exactly.
I can tell you. Some people like SUVs, some people like sport cars.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Both
you
cars.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Can I say that one is better? No.
Here's what I would go as far as to say that better for what? So if you tell me, hey, what should I, it goes back to the question that we had or that we've answered. It goes back to, well, better for what? Because what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to improve your your cardiovascular endurance, some part of this explosiveness, and also what I would call, and also Thierry Sanchez, I've quoted this guy so many times, he did a master thesis on kettlebells, what he calls hybrid endurance, because you actually, when you snatch a 32 kg kettlebell over your head for 10 minutes, it is endurance, but it's also kind of like strength. So it's a hybrid endurance because you're using a weight. Even if you use it as efficiently as possible, it's not locomotion. It's not running. You maybe can compare it next to rowing to a certain extent. So my guess would be, or my advice would be in that regard is, hey, do you enjoy kettlebells? Yes. Do you want to build some tension techniques where you want to press a lot of weights, lift a lot of weights in a dynamic fashion like you would a barbell? Yes. Then most definitely learn these tension techniques and learn them good because you need them. But do you also want to swing, snatch, clean, and jerk weights at the kettlebell? The actual USP of what I believe what a kettlebell is best known for? Then I would, and here's where I go a little bit against the grain, because then I would use the technique that the exercise requires. Because let's look at a ballistic exercise. A ballistic exercise where we work with momentum does not build muscle. Just from the get-go. It
By definition, yeah.
By definition. It can if you're using very heavy weights, right? If you double clean 32s for, let's say, like 5 sets of 10, and you do this like 20 minutes for 3 times a week, you're going to build some muscle. Because the weight is going to challenge you so much. But here's the thing again, if you have opted in for solid technique, so your technique is good, then you're using weights for momentum. It's rather geared towards, maybe let's use explosive strength to a certain extent, and endurance. Yeah. If you want to build max strength, max muscle, you don't want to use momentum. You want to decrease the amount of momentum. But if you use momentum exercises with momentum, you might want to use an efficient movement pattern, because the qualities that you're aiming for when you do ballistics are either a little bit of explosiveness or endurance. So therefore, I would choose the optimum efficient movement pattern for a ballistic exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Although, even if somebody is doing kettlebell sport, if anybody wants to do kettlebell sport and wants to build muscle, I think.
You're muted again. You're muted. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah.
For the sport, super important thing is diet, because even if you do bodybuilding without enough calories, you're not gonna build enough muscle. You have people that are building a lot of muscle doing endurance sports because they have a surplus of calories. So
that's a good point.
Of course, if you want to maximize the muscle building effect, being super efficient in your movements is not going to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you want to do more bodybuilding.
Yeah. It's like you could let's put it like this. You could probably put on some decent size. I get where you're coming from, because we talked about it in the beginning. If you want to put on some size, yes, use some momentum or use some cleans and snatches or whatever have you. Eat a little bit of a surplus, and I think you will gain muscle, most definitely. Probably not the best way possible, but it's still going to happen. Is that where you're coming from? Yeah.
And if you are going to do the full spectrum, because let's be honest, if you want to be the best at, let's say, long cycle, you're going to have to do strict presses. You're going to have to do squats. You're going to have to build the base strength so that your flowing movements,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be just stronger in those positions. So if you want to
I agree.
be complete athlete, then then you still do those movements that provide enough stimulus to do hypertrophy. And I tell
Exactly. Yeah.
everybody,
Mm.
just
Mm.
find a weight that lets you do somewhere that lets you perform somewhere between 8 to 15 reps. Have those 90 seconds, 2 minutes rest between sets, and just work on that. And one day it can be snatch, another day it can be
Mm.
long cycle, another day it
Mm-hmm.
can be jerks
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
squats or deadlifts.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Work this way.
Oh, you're
Um,
making a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
and then just make sure that you got enough calories,
Hmm.
enough
You're right.
protein so that you can support the building with the diet.
Man, agree.
Yeah,
One.
this is what
Wow.
I do because
Yeah.
when now I can't wait till I finish the competition and I can kind of unleash myself, start eating like I want to build muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and start going back from sets of now my workouts are I if I grab the kettlebell, I don't put it down before I finish 60 or 100 reps. I want to go back to that 10 rep, 12 rep um,
Yeah.
workout
Yeah.
scheme where I
Yeah.
just go and I feel the pump, and maybe I do a clean and a strict press,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
I mix it with some rows, and I don't think about, oh, is it
Yeah.
gonna diminish my endurance? I'm just gonna be like, okay,
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to gain some size.
That's actually the most fun. That's actually the most fun position to be in when you can just train for fun, good variety, some
Yeah.
quality muscle, some endurance. Because I'm realizing, I don't know how you feel, but I'm realizing throughout my workouts, um, I'm starting to include. I'm right now. I'm on the every minute on the minute train. I really love this idea. This is so cool. And what I realized is, just recently I did some simple stuff: 4 heavy goblet squats and 4 1 pump burpees. And then I switched it up. I said, you know what? 4 jerks with double 24s and 4 burpees. And now what I'm realizing is I love to switch with these movements. I used to be very strict with my planning and programming, but now I kind of loosen up a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this twice a week. But then I realized, like, yeah, let's do something else. So I feel like I don't want to be confined to my programming, if that makes sense. But I want to break out and feel like, hey, come on, let's put on the belt. Let's use some heavy belts. Let's go up with the weights, up with the reps with lighter weights, or let's go down with the reps with heavier weights. And how do you feel throughout your workouts? Are they not when you're competing? Because when you're competing or you're aiming for a competition, there is linear progression. You have a goal in mind. We all get this. But if you're
Yeah.
aside from this, do you plan your workouts, or you do jump a little bit back and forth? What's your style then?
Um, I used to do a lot of CrossFit, and I really enjoyed the feeling because you would have the pump, you use a lot of heavy weights, but then the heavy weights you can kind of put together with the lighter weights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can go 6 super heavy followed by, like, I can go double snatches,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's a killer exercise.
Yeah, it is.
Get if you wanna get super strong, double snatches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if anybody is watching it and you are still not 100% there with technique, focus on other stuff,
Yeah.
guys.
I'll focus on one
Because
kettlebell first. Yeah.
even seasoned athletes,
Yes. Yeah.
you gotta be careful. But anyway, let's say you do 6 super heavy double snatches, and then a good thing to do with that would be, for example, some dips, which are lighter exercise, and I can bang out 15, or push-ups.
Mm.
And it doesn't
Interfere.
fight
Yeah.
each other
Yeah.
because one is mainly posterior chain, the other one is anterior chain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to go, let's say, okay, heavy squats,
Mm-hmm.
and then after heavy squats, I can maybe do some light jerks, so that I still have my body is still used to the movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Love
so that
this.
when I start my competition prep again, I'm not like, oh my god, I haven't done sport jerks in
Mm.
ages. No, I
Mm.
do it. I
Mm.
always do it. This is the now we get into the hybrid way of training,
Exactly.
because now I
Right.
introduce some bodybuilding. I can
Yeah.
even do bodybuilding. I can even do super bodybuilding style stuff. If I'm at the gym, let's say with kettlebells, okay, I will do leg extensions
Yeah.
for the quads, and then I
Mm-hmm.
will go hand-to-hand swings for the
Mm.
posterior chain. So I have the
Exactly.
anterior where I do bodybuilding, and I go
Yeah.
light, so I catch my
Yeah.
breath, but I'm still moving. I'm
Yeah.
still moving, and I still burn
Yeah.
calories, and
Yeah.
I'm still
Love this.
sweating, and
Love this.
yeah. So
It's
this
kind of
is
like that. That's that hybrid approach, right?
yeah,
That I
man,
love so much. It's you're not confined to anything. You are just,
yeah,
especially if you know what you're doing, and you're saying stuff that makes a lot of sense, that resonates with me because I think like this too. I'm like, hey, let's just split the body into either upper body, lower body, or anterior, posterior, and then just move back and forth. Just recently I did, which was an awesome workout, had 15 MOMs. I did 3 heavy bench press, where really challenged me. Rack the weight, jump up to the rack, do 5 pull-ups with the body weight, come back down, rest. Do this for 15 rounds. Then I got into the jerk and the burpee for 15 rounds, and then you have a 30-minute workout with very super simple exercises that covers so much ground. And that's where I think the power lies as well of this hybrid thinking, not just confined to kettlebells, but also with everything, with the barbell. You mentioned the dumbbell. I love the dumbbell too. The dumbbell, and that's what sometimes people think they may be mistaken. They mistake this. They think just because we are rather known as kettlebell proponents or practitioners that we discard everything else, that we don't like barbells, we don't like machines, we don't like dumbbells. No, I love all that stuff. Here's the thing, and I wonder what you say about it. The thing about kettlebells, especially for our clients, is it takes care of so many things in such a short time. That's what makes it so powerful. What do
yeah,
you think?
yeah. Because you can, one tool. Once you teach somebody proper technique, you don't you start, especially new coaches. I think they're afraid of, oh my god, every time I'm gonna be teaching the technique. No, at some point you just talk to your clients like we talk. I tell my client, hey, we're gonna do clean and jerk. I don't have to show them. Just
Exactly. They
grab a
understand.
12 kilo for the first set. Then
Let's
we're gonna
go.
do 16 and 20. We're gonna do 15 reps, 12 reps, 8 reps, and then we're gonna move on to snatch.
Love
And they
this.
know. And all I now where is where the money goes is that I monitor, and because I practice so much, I now have the opportunity of helping them improve the technique. And let's be honest, with kettlebells, man, I've been doing kettlebells for 10 years, and every time I'm like, the last workout was the biggest, uh, you know, like I had the biggest kind of epiphany, because I was like, oh my God, my clean technique completely changed. I was like, wow, what the hell is happening? And then I noticed, hey, this is how I feel today. And this is how the kettlebell fits today.
Hmm.
So it's not,
Yeah.
which is
It's
another,
yeah,
like,
that's another podcast in and all by itself. It's so
this is the
many.
thing, man.
Yeah, that's the thing
Kettlebells,
about it. Yeah.
is that little ball of steel that you can really. This is why people write books on it, and
Yeah. Yeah. That's why
people
we've
get
been talking. That's why we've been talking for almost
for
2 hours
almost two
now.
hours. Yeah, man.
Yes,
And this
exactly.
is why people get pissed about it. Like Dennis is, cursing
Yeah,
another
yeah.
guy, and this is
Exactly.
one guy is no, you have to, and another guy is you have to,
Exactly.
and you know, and this is why you have people like us who are just like, hey, everybody just get the fuck along,
Yeah,
and
and just train
you
with
know,
because we have so much more in common than we are different, right? And here's the
yeah,
major part. Here's the major part about the kettlebell that so many people seem to miss at the end. It's how you describe it. There are so many moving parts because you're working with momentum. So if you have momentum, inertia, and then your body into the mix, so the barbell, the body kettlebell system. So it's not just, I love this, it's not just the internal, right, your body, it's also the
yeah,
external, the kettlebell. So if you
yeah,
mix the internal with the external, it becomes the body kettlebell system. And there's so
yeah,
many moving parts that like you said, it feels different. Just recently, when I did the double 40, double 24 jerk with the burpee combo with the belt, I felt invincible. I was like, that's so easy. I'm gonna kill it. Yesterday, or just yesterday, the workout I felt so bad. I felt so sluggish throughout the workout. It was such a complete, it was a dead workout, but I pushed through it, right? Because then I'm like, hey, even if it doesn't feel right, you've set your mind up to do it, so let's do it. You got to run through it. I can't excuse my emotional, my inner state of feeling because I don't feel right. I move. I don't care.
yeah,
But it's
because you
these
feel so much better afterwards.
exactly. And but funny thing is, Phil, I didn't feel better afterwards. I felt completely drained. But
Uh-huh.
here it is. If you've been training for long enough, you've probably had these workouts too, where at the end, instead of giving you a boost, it gave you, you almost fell into a hole. It was like you were drained of energy. And so it's like that just happens if you've been training and working out for a long time. And then, of course, if your body feels different, of course, technique will always maybe adapt a little bit. And funny
Yeah,
thing is, when I'm watching Steve's technique now, in light of what I know now, it looks so different than when I first got exposed to what he does.
yeah,
Because I've seen so many different styles now. I've cleaned thousands of times. I've snatched thousands of times. So your technique changes as well. And you're developing this unique style of approach where, again, everybody moves different to a certain extent, right?
yeah. I love going back to the videos that would be kind of like, the inspiration. Like, if you talk about Snatch, when you watch Dennis or the Denisov, or you watch Snatch Vasiliev, or you watch Carter, or you watch Benitza, and then you don't watch because you've watched them so many times, and then there is a year goes by, but you always keep training, and then you go again and you watch this video and you're like, wow, I forgot about this little thing.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
I forgot about this little thing. Oh,
Exactly.
wow,
You
actually,
go through it
that's
again.
yeah,
Man, 100%.
and then you apply it to your new technique, which becomes something totally different. Hey, man, it's been a blast. I'm sorry,
Most
but I have a
definitely, Phil.
session.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
We could go for four
We
hours.
could
I
go
know,
on
but
forever, yes. If you enjoyed this episode, you're over 40, and you're looking for a free kettlebell workout to help you get started, check the first link in the description. It works on YouTube as well as on Spotify.